Air Force commander asks, if I launch this aircraft, can it accomplish its mission, and can I recover it? A Navy task force commander wonders, can I move my ships from my present position to the mission rendezvous point without encountering serious heavy weather? An Army commander ponders, can I move my troops and heavy equipment to the main line of resistance? And can I depend on close air support? In all these cases, a common denominator is the weather. Military commanders need to know promptly if the weather will support their missions or hinder them. One of the most important aids to the weatherman in analyzing and predicting the weather is cloud cover information. Clouds reveal what the atmosphere is doing. They are the weather signposts in the sky. No one knows who first said, "Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning." But for many generations, that kind of technology, plus observing the habits of animals and birds, was the only weather forecasting man understood. Today, our weather observing techniques are much improved. Weather balloons carry precision instruments to measure temperature, pressure, and humidity up to 100,000 feet above sea level. Aerial weather reconnaissance flights, pilot reports, radar observations, and meteorological rockets have refined weather observing and forecasting until they have become skilled art. If not exact science. Someday we may be able to control weather conditions so that the climate can be tailored to the needs of the locale. But until then, we're going to have to live with whatever we're offered. And sometimes we're surprised by what the weather offers us. Most of the time, such surprises cause us inconvenience. But to the Department of Defense, such surprises could be disastrous. Prior to the space age, there were some parts of the world where real-time weather information was totally unavailable to the Department of Defense. Nevertheless, despite this limitation, DoD required weather data that was precise, reliable, secure, and timely. To satisfy these military requirements, the Department of Defense initiated a program to place a cloud-covered data-gathering satellite in polar orbit. It would feed global visual and infrared cloud imagery data to the Air Weather Service Global Weather Central at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska, as well as regional data to a worldwide family of fixed and mobile ground terminals. And it would be totally responsive to the needs of military decision makers. To manage the program, a Defense Meteorological Satellite Program office was established at the Air Force Space and Missile Systems Organization and was staffed by a very high proportion of officers carrying advanced degrees in science and engineering disciplines. After development and test, a DoD meteorological satellite was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base. Weather data was relayed from the satellite through ground command readout stations to the Global Weather Central at Offutt. A tactical readout station was also installed at Tonsanut Air Base to support 7th and 13th Air Force operations in Southeast Asia. However, users of the early satellite data had to be content with low-resolution television-type snapshots and daily albedo and temperature maps. The data was also incomplete because of the small percentage of the Earth's surface imaged daily and the large gaps between swaths of successive orbits. Eventually, Block 4 spacecraft carried two 1-inch Vidicon television cameras, providing pictures with an 0.8 of a mile resolution beneath the satellite and completely gapless coverage. And there were 5 ground terminals in daily operation. The improved Block 5 spacecraft replaced the Vidicon camera with a scanning radiometer, presenting 1/3 nautical mile resolution at satellite nadir and 2 nautical mile resolution along the edge of the 1,600 nautical mile swath, while the Earth was imaged twice daily by each spacecraft. When an on-orbit operational satellite's data degrades so that it is no longer usable, a replacement satellite is launched. Circling the Earth every 101 minutes in 450 nautical mile polar orbits, 2 DMSP satellites gather cloud imagery data as well as information on vertical temperature and moisture profiles and ozone content. They complete approximately 14 1/4 orbits daily. The satellites are launched so they will cross the equator at the same local sun time on each orbit. The technical term for this kind of orbit is sun synchronous. The morning satellite is so named because it crosses the equator in a northerly direction at precisely the same morning local sun time, for example, 0730 hours. 12 sun time hours later, at 1930 hours, local sun time, it will cross the equator in a southerly direction. Approximately 5 hours behind the morning satellite, depending on time of launch, the noon satellite will cross the equator approximately 75 degrees east of the morning satellite in both northerly and southerly directions. For example, 5 minutes before noon and 5 minutes before midnight, local sun time. In order to remain sun synchronous, each satellite is launched so that it will cross the equator at an angle of 98 degrees. This angle ensures that the satellite's orbital plane will precess eastward at the same rate that the Earth revolves around the sun, slightly less than 1 degree per day. Consequently, the orbital plane stays in the same relative position between the Earth and the sun throughout the year. On each subsequent revolution, the Earth moves eastward under the orbital plane approximately 25 degrees. Although to an observer on the Earth's surface, the orbits appear to precess westward, they are actually fixed in space while the Earth rotates beneath them. On each subsequent day, a satellite may be expected to be visible from a particular ground station at about the same time, but it may be east or west or north or south of the previous day's location. And it will always cross the equator at the same local sun time. By mid-1976, there were 20 DMSP readout stations throughout the world. Currently, DMSP operates 2 command readout stations. Housed in former Nike sites, one is located near Fairchild Air Force Base in the state of Washington, and the other near Loring Air Force Base in Maine. These stations contain duplicate equipment and, being a continent apart, provide complementary functions and capabilities. At each site is a fixed 40-foot parabolic antenna protected by a rigid radome, plus an operations building containing data handling, communications, and computerized command and control subsystems. Their primary functions are command and control of the DMSP satellites, receipt of the satellite's stored primary sensor, telemetry, and attitude data, while simultaneously relaying sensor data in real time through a commercial synchronous communications link to Global Weather Central. The Air Force Global Weather Central is the hub of the Air Weather Service, whose mission is to provide weather information to Department of Defense agencies. A data reconstruction station receives the data in real time from the command readout stations. The data may be visually displayed, recorded for further processing and archiving, and introduced directly into the computer processing facility by means of a data formatter. The visual data appears as a rapidly processed film strip, depicting cloud cover and recognizable topography. 5 minutes after the satellite has passed over the receiving station, trained forecasters and analysts, by examining the data, can determine the state of the local weather at that time and what is likely to occur locally in the foreseeable future. Simultaneously with production of the film strip, the data is fed into Global's computer to yield a digital printout, which is used as a basis for developing weather charts and maps to be transmitted to Air Force weather facilities throughout the world. One of the most frequent uses of the computer-stored data occurs during preparation of flight plans. Flight plan information containing route, aircraft type, flight level, and estimated departure time is transmitted to Global from the operations center at the flight's point of origin. At Global, this information is used as the basis for devising a computerized flight plan that is transmitted back to the point of origin. Shortly before he is scheduled to depart, the pilot will pick up a computerized flight plan containing estimated time of departure, estimated time en route, estimated time of arrival, true airspeed, ground speed, alternate flight levels, alternate destinations, wind velocity and temperatures at primary and alternate flight levels, estimated fuel consumption, refueling points, and estimated time of arrival at refueling points. With the flight plan in hand, the pilot receives his weather briefing and is ready to go. On-orbit operational control of all DMSP satellites is the primary function of the Command and Control Center operated by the 4,000th Aerospace Applications Group of the Strategic Air Command. A computerized integrated commanding system controls and monitors command load data transmitted through each command readout station to the satellite. The Command and Control Center also contains a facility for processing orbital telemetry. Here, anomaly studies and analyses of real-time on-orbit malfunctions are performed. Much of the Global Weather Central Mission concerns long-range operations, storing weather information for future reference, and supplying data for high-level policy considerations. There are, however, throughout the world, requirements for weather information that can be satisfied with just the immediate cloud imagery data, and must be satisfied more promptly than a retransmission from Global will permit. To meet this need, the transportable ground terminals were created. The TransTerm, as the transportable terminal is usually called, is housed in a 38-foot semi-trailer van. Worldwide, the Air Force operates 13 TransTerms, including a trainer at Keesler Air Force Base. Here, the two-man operator maintenance crews are trained to work as a team, using the real-time satellite data in direct support of Army, Navy, and Air Force theater operations. The van contains receiving, decrypting, display and recording equipment, and an automatic tracking antenna. In high wind or severe cold environments, the antenna and supporting pedestal may be protected by a radome instead of being installed atop the van. The Navy operates two TransTerms, one at the North Island Naval Air Station, San Diego, California, the other at Rota, Spain. Although similar in appearance to Air Force TransTerms, the Navy installations are modified to support the tactical meteorological requirements of the Navy. In order to determine the feasibility of a shipboard installation, a terminal was placed aboard the USS Constellation. The system proved so successful that instead of being dismantled at the end of the test period, it was updated for the Block 5D satellite system and will be permanent installed equipment. A second aircraft carrier, the USS John F. Kennedy, has been equipped with a prototype readout station. There are two identical parabolic antennas mounted on either side of the ship, just below the flight deck. Below decks, installed terminal equipment includes 2 receivers, a general-purpose digital computer, a tape recorder, and weather data processing equipment. The general-purpose computer calculates pointing angles, commands the antenna system in real time, and switches the tracking function between the 2 antennas so that the satellite can be tracked from horizon to horizon. By the early 1980s, the Navy plans to have 12 aircraft carriers fitted with production readout stations. Certain of the worldwide DMSP stations are dedicated to specific missions. At the National Military Command Center, selected portions of data are received daily from Global Weather Central to give top-level military decision-makers a complete weather picture of designated regions of interest. Headquarters Tactical Air Command receive this same information. The operators of the Transsturm in Kinsbach, West Germany, provide local weather information to all United States commanders in the NATO countries. At Howard Air Force Base in the Panama Canal Zone, severe weather warnings are provided for all of Central and South America. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center on the island of Guam depends heavily on the data received at the local DMSP Transsturm. The DMSP data is used not only for typhoon detection and warning, but also as an aid in planning weather reconnaissance flights. By dispatching aircraft to pinpointed storms, instead of sending them out on random searches, considerable time and fuel can be saved. At Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska, the data received at the DMSP Transsturm supports major military exercises, Navy polar and Bering Sea ice mapping, and remote forest fire spotting. Auroral activity is also monitored at Elmendorf to support Department of Defense organizations concerned with polar area communications. At Kwajalein, DMSP supports Air Force research and development programs such as missile reentry vehicle tests. B-1 bomber flights off the coast of California are planned according to weather information received at Vandenberg Air Force Base through DMSP. The military R&D effort is also enhanced by Earth radiance data, low light level auroral pictures, and precipitating electron data collected by DMSP spacecraft. The Block 5D spacecraft will refine the program's capabilities by increasing on-orbit lifetime, increasing sensor payload versatility, and enhancing cloud imagery resolution and location. The reason for these significant improvements is the Operational Line Scan System, the OLS. The OLS digital data is more reliable and permits more efficient use of the allocated radio frequency band than any system employed to date. The most notable refinement in the end product is in the near constant resolution from nadir to the edge of the 1,600-mile swath. Future DMSP spacecraft may also report on precipitation rates and sea state. Not only has the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program demonstrated outstanding operational effectiveness, but it has also achieved noteworthy cost effectiveness. By using refurbished Thor missiles as launch vehicles and employing in-place military launch crews, the Air Force has achieved a considerable savings in launch costs. By using converted Nike sites and transportable terminals, the cost of producing, launching the spacecraft, and operating the overall DMSP program has been considerably lessened. Also contributing to holding down costs has been the effective management of logistics support for the entire ground system in the Thor launch vehicles by the Sacramento Air Logistics Center of the Air Force Logistics Command. In addition to meeting unique military requirements, DMSP helps civilian weather agencies throughout the world by providing data through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Among the missions performed by DMSP, none is more dramatic than the part it played in May 1975 during the recovery of the merchant ship Mayaguez. Vietnam and Cambodia were silent areas in that they did not disseminate weather observations through the World Meteorological Organization. Additionally, this territory was denied to U.S. forces. Therefore, no weather data for these areas was available to U.S. forecasters. The United States elements engaged in the recovery mission would therefore rely on weather data from climatology, U.S. Navy weather ships, reconnaissance planes, and DMSP. Climatology forecast a likelihood of high humidity, extensive cloud cover at low altitude, heavy precipitation, and thunderstorms. U.S. Navy ships, having been detailed elsewhere, were unavailable to provide weather information. Weather reconnaissance planes, limited by range and hostile armament, could find no evidence to contradict the climatology forecast. Refueling of tactical air support would have to be accomplished in an area filled with clouds. Damaged helicopters, denied by hostile armament from returning along the shore to Utapao Air Base, would be ditched at sea, their crews to be picked up by other rescue choppers. But at DMSP Site 23, Nakhon Phanom, Thailand, data was being received that would support more satisfactory solutions. The DMSP data bore out the climatology prediction. There was substantial cloud cover throughout the area. But from the high altitude vantage point of the DMSP satellite, clear areas were readily locatable. The refueling area could be moved westward to a location clear of clouds, and the helicopters could be flown offshore, out of range of hostile gunfire, to safe landings at Utapao. By providing timely data, DMSP contributed abundantly to the saving of lives during the successful accomplishment of the Mayaguez recovery mission. Putting it all together, DMSP is an efficient, cost-effective, successful means of supplying quality weather data on a regular schedule to support military operations quickly and efficiently on a global scale. With the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program in our inventory, our Department of Defense will continue to hold the high ground with an operational weather data system dedicated and responsive to our nation's military requirements.